What year did you go off to the war?
But I left there in 1943.
1943. So you worked the first 2 years here in Butte?
On Western Union.
Oh, okay. So in 43, what year, what month in 43?
I left on Mother's Day, the day after Mother's Day, May of 43.
You left Butte.
First 18-year-olds leave Butte. Tucker McGree, Bill Drew, Eddie Markovich, John Shea. I mean, the whole trade was 18.
Was that because you were all drafted at the same time?
Right. First 18-year-olds, right to Salt Lake City we went.
And then what happened when you hit Salt Lake City?
Oh, I'll tell you, that was the biggest experience of my life. I'll tell you, the first 3 days in that army in that Salt Lake. First thing out come a little lieutenant, and he takes his hat off, and he didn't have hair one. And we had all of them zoot suiters from California and everything else there too, you know. And he said, see that? The next formation is in 3 hours, and I want every one of you to look like this. 3 hours. When them barbers had seen them zoot suiters coming, you know, they just give that chair a kick and hold that clippers. The next day he comes over and he says, all you college graduates, he said, put up your hands and get over there. All you high school graduates, put up your hand, get over there. Okay, rest of you guys. He said, okay, you college graduates get them picks. You high school graduates get them shovels. You guys ain't got no education, stand around and learn something. I'll never forget that as long as I live. The next morning he comes out, third day we were there, you know, we were all uniformed out and everything, and he said, and he was kind of, you know, he leaned into it, you couldn't believe it, and he said, geez, he said, you know, how many people here know shorthand? You know, shorthand was a big thing in them days, you know. Good, they're shorthanded on KP, right up the road. That's when you learn, don't put your hand up for nothing, don't volunteer for anything. But I'll never forget, we were talking about that the other day, Eddie Markovich and I, he said, remember that guy? Never forget him.
So there were a bunch of Butte guys together going through the same thing.
You know the nice part about it? We're on the train going down, and who do we got for MPs? But Johnny O'Leary, the cop, the mayor's son, and a guy by the name of Dan Dooley that lived right up here on Center Street. They're the MPs. And they broke every bottle, took them with the clubs. We weren't even to rocker.
They took your booze away.
Oh, you bet you're right they did. They never came back to Butte, neither one of them. Never did. Well, Johnny Larry come back and he got hammered every time we turned around. Boy, them guys, I know guys that just waited for him to come.
So what happened after Salt Lake? Where'd you head for then?
I went to Texas.
And where were we in Texas?
Fort Sam Houston.
And what did you train to do there?
Infantry. But you know the funny part about it? We weren't in Fort Sam Houston. We were in a place called Fort Camp Bullis, out in the Grease Woods, in pyramidal tents, and all them nice big 3-story barracks and all that beautiful quadrangle and everything. Oh, that is the most beautiful place I ever seen. It was that quadrangle at Fort Sam Houston. But we weren't there. Out there with the chiggers and everything else.
How long before you shipped out of there?
We went to maneuvers in Louisiana, flunked the first one. Had to go back and do it again. I was in Camp Claiborne, Louisiana then.
What unit was that?
That we were attached into a portion of the 7th Infantry. The Airbornes were there. There was an airborne outfit. 88th Division was there. They were all units training with them. But then we went to Camp Claiborne, Louisiana. Boy, that was the place. Paper shacks. The wind blew the dust right through the walls. They got outfitted all with winter clothes. All winter clothes. Everything. Overshoes, overcoats, everything. Up to Chicago we go. Turn west. Fort Lewis, Washington. They got all the winter clothes, all the summer clothes, got all the suntans and green fatigues. South Pacific.
Where'd you head for first in the South
First Pacific. We were at Mogmog.
Where?
Mogmog, it's an island there. Then the next place was Ulithi. You know where Ulithi is?
No.
Well, that's out there in the South Pacific. Then the next place was Okinawa.
Was that the first shooting that you saw?
Yeah. Yeah. But then, when the war ended, they said they dropped the atomic bomb. What's the atomic bomb? I don't know. Nobody knew what the atomic bomb was. But then they told us, well, the war's over. So we each got a can of hot beer. And then about 2 days later, they took all the guns away from everybody because they killed about 6 or 8 guys celebrating. And then the points come out, and there was 122 guys in my outfit. And 2 weeks before Christmas, 12 of us, they shipped all of them home for Christmas. They had enough points to go home, and they went home. And there was the company commander, Captain Thompson. There was Rodney Pearson and me, and Eddie Hartman, and a couple more guys. The next thing, they were handing out stripes, you couldn't believe it. The next thing, we get 209 guys right straight out of the United States. All just rookie recruits. February come, and they said, call me in, and they said, report to the Repel Depot at Butler Bay. They had a big Repel Depot there. Company commander said, well, he said, geez, he said, I'm short of cadre. He said, I'll give you first sergeant stripes if you stay. I said, I'll see you, Captain. Goodbye. And I went to Repel Depot, back to Fort Lewis. Got in there, they gave us blankets, a pillow, and a 3-day pass. That's so many guys, they couldn't take care of them all. But the first thing they did was feed us. Boy, I'll tell you, steaks that thick, butter, I don't eat butter, you know, and they were handing out butter by the pound. I said, what's the matter with you? I said, I don't like butter. They docked that ship, you know, right in Pier 91, and they made everybody that was on the left side of the leeward or whatever they call it, aft or whatever, lay back down because everybody the ship was. We come home on the USS Admiral Mail, 5,000 troops plus a crew of 500 Marines and sailors on that ship. I learned going over. We went over on USS Typhoon, one of Kaiser's coffins. When they opened that thing up, so we could get our stuff, our bags and our guns back out, you know what we were sitting on top of? Right. Tons of bottles of oxygen and acetylene. If the Jap sub had hit at that ship, we'd have been the first guys on the moon. But we got on that going over, you know, the mess sergeant, his name was Bill Caldwell, and he was you got 2 meals going over on the ship, one supper and one breakfast. And lunch, you up on the decks, and they fed him cookies and oranges is all they got. So he said to me, so I'm going to need guys to help me in KP. He said, you want to do it? I said, I don't want to KP. And he said, I'll tell you, you're going to be better off if you pull KP than you are if you don't. So myself and another kid, this Rodney Pearson, we were great friends. He was from Maine. We took it, and it was, got fed well, you got the best of food and everything. But coming back, I couldn't believe it. The stove was from here to that set over there. And the last day on ship, they fed us steaks. And then guys told me, and the guys were, some of the guys I knew on the ship did. They started one and putting the steaks on. When they got to the end of the stove, the guys were turning them over. When they got to the end, they were taking them off. But you're feeding 5,000 troops. We go down the gangplank. I'm in the fantail of the ship. In the bow of the ship, you couldn't go past the front of the ship. We couldn't go past the middle of the ship yet because that was restricted. The men, you were on either end of the ship. Going down the gangplank and get to the bottom of the gangplank, and the guy said, Shea, John T, 39617-881. Okay. And I heard the guy behind me, he say, Bradley, Pat. I turned around. Here's a guy from Butte that I worked with as a Western Union messenger. And right behind him comes another kid that used to run the gas station on the corner of Montana and Mercury Street. There he worked for the, what do you call it? But anyway, they're on the front end of the ship and I'm on the back end of the ship, see? Never even knew they were on there because you couldn't go past.
This was coming home or going out?
Going home.
I'll be darned.
Here they were on there, they got on Okinawa too on that ship. But that's, you know, when you come down, going on, you had to give your first name and then the FBI and you were standing right there when you're loading, see, so they made sure that you run that ship. But they sure as hell were worried about you when you got off that ship.
Yeah.
Boy, the physicals and everything had to be so. I come home with a guy from Livingston, his name was Thomas A. Hawk. Tomahawk. He was with the 41st, and he was a little dingy, I think, from being over there all that time. He was regular Army, but he come home that time with us. I couldn't believe him. And he said, "You're from Montana?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm from Butte." He said, "Hell, I'm from Livingston." Well, anyway, we got to be, and we're at Fort Lewis, see. Well, they give us a furlough, 3-day pass, so we go down to Tacoma. Just can't wait to get a real glass of beer, you know. It's school election, the bars are all closed. I'll tell you, that was I got home here St. Patrick's Eve night. My dad was working afternoon shift at the Mountain Con Mine. So my mom was sick and the bed was right here. My brother-in-law and sister lived right down there, the second house down. I said to Mom, "Dad working?" "Yeah." So over the con I go. Ray Rashley and Frank Maloney, they're all on the top over there. And I said to Frank, "Do you know where my dad's at?" He said, "Yeah, he's on a 4,000, John." I said, "You do me a favor, go down and get him. Don't tell him I'm here." "Okay." So they go down. Up comes the cage and off comes my dad. He's muttering and, well, Frank said, "Geez, it ain't my fault, Tim." He said, "They want you up to work out in the yard." Or no, he's been down to mine and it's red hot and this is March, you know. "Well, in the name of God," they got me out in the timber. He said, I'm falling behind him over to the window and he checks in. Dolly Rogers was the timekeeper and he said, "What do you want me to do, Dolly?" He said, "Well," he said, "Tim," he said, I don't know," he said, "I think you better go in and take a shower and change clothes." He said, "Sure, at my age I'm going out in the yard." I thought, "Jesus, John, you better say something to him before he has a heart attack here." I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, "Hi, Dad." Jesus. And then they all said, "That's why you're up here, Tim." In we go and I sat on the bench while he showered. And we're coming across the field there and he said to me, he says, "I'll go to Casey's." I said, "No, it's already there." I said, "I got the beer and I got the booze." I said, "It's right over there." Me and him and Andy, my brother, oh, did we get drunk. I think my first time my mother saw me drunk. I know it was. Get up the next morning, you know. And he says, "How do you feel?" I said, "Feel? I'm dying." He kept the bottle in the bathroom in there behind the sink, behind the toilet, or behind the tub. He drinks out the bottle. He gets a glass and he pours me a shot. Boy, it hit bottom and right in the toilet. He looks at me, gives me another one. And he said, "This time swallow, and keep swallowing." And I did, and it stayed down. He said, "Now we'll have a shot." It was Saturday night, you know. Get up, the next morning I'm sound asleep in bed up there. "John." "Yes, Mom." "It's time to get up." I said, "It's Sunday." And she said, "Yeah, and Mass is at 9 o'clock at St. Lawrence's." "Oh." Out of bed? Yeah.